good morning, everyone, and welcome into Mid-Morning. Dr. Keith Watson is joining me in studio again. We're so happy to have you.
Good morning again.
So, Dr. Watson, we were talking a little bit off air, and, this is a topic of conversation that we have definitely seen in the last few years become something we talk about, and that's mental health. And whenever you think of mental health, I don't think many people think of children necessarily being affected by mental health. So I guess I just kind of want you to speak about, what you have seen maybe in your career as a pediatrician.
It's much more common now, and we could probably have several conversations on why it's more common, and I don't know that I know the answer. But it does seem to be increasing in frequency over my years of practice, which it's been 20-something now. But it's very common now for me to see a child in clinic who is dealing with some form of a mental health problem, whether that be anxiety or depression. Bullying is a big one. Issues with social media, self-esteem, those types of things. It's a very common practice now to see someone.
Now, with you being a pediatrician, what, steps do you take, or should a parent take whenever it's a very young child, maybe we're seeing that's maybe anxious in class or nervous or maybe even shy sometimes?
I think the first step obviously is, and this is the hard one, is to recognize it.
Okay.
And when you recognize it, understand that this stuff does happen in kids.
Okay.
And you don't want to, and this is not an easy part for a parent, and it's not an easy part for a doctor either. You don't want to be dismissive of real symptoms, but at the same time, you don't want to overreact to normal everyday life occurrences.
And maybe like cause an issue.
Kids sometimes are nervous about going to school when they're young because it's something new. That's natural. But if the reaction to going to school are these episodes of panic and crying and vomiting and this type of thing, that's a real thing. It needs to be addressed.
So if they see those signs, do they, obviously I know most places you have to maybe potentially get a referral first. So should they call you first? You'll see the symptoms and then can point them in the direction to go to.
First thing, if you feel like it's a real issue and you need help, just talking it out, absolutely. That's what your pediatrician, your family physician is for.
Okay.
Talking about what is going on, maybe what has triggered these symptoms, maybe what the parents have tried to do to help, what seems to make the symptoms worse, whatever it is, get the story out so parents and physician can then come up with a reasonable plan to address it, whether that is a counselor or therapist, or even if it is severe enough, medication. There are medications for depression and anxiety that young people can take, just like an adult. This is not just an adult issue.
Gotcha.
Kids have this problem.
Gotcha. And with those medications, would we assume that they're lower dosage per se, or it just depends on that child?
It depends. Obviously, you would start with a lower dosage. It's a child. But in my years, I have found that sometimes the person, it's how sensitive they are to medication. I've seen grown men need low doses of something, and I've seen children need bigger doses just because of how they react to it.
All right, guys, stick around. We're going to be talking about signs of stress in kids, maybe versus teens, coming up. All right, everyone, welcome back into Mid-Morning. So Dr. Keith Watson is here, and we've been talking about mental health in children. So before we went to the break, we said we wanted to talk about recognizing maybe the signs in a child, potentially versus maybe a teenager. And Dr. Watson, you were saying it can present itself different in maybe younger children.
It can. In some kids, it will present as a physical symptom of an illness. A lot of children that are suffering from mental health will present with stomach aches, headaches, even lack of energy or fatigue. A lot of times a parent will think their child is sick because of these recurrent complaints. And it is due to just the stress and the worry and the anxiety of whatever is going on presenting itself as a physical complaint. It can present as a classic behavioral problem too. It could be changes in personality, crying episodes, being withdrawn, not wanting to do things, staying in a, and this is a hard one because teenagers stay in the room anyway, but staying in their room, not wanting to do anything, things that the child used to enjoy, they now avoid.
Okay.
Those types of things. Changes in sleeping patterns, and it can
that's a
go
good
either
one.
direction. Excessive sleeping, not sleeping
at all.
Changes in appetite, not eating, all the way up to overeating. So it can present pretty obviously as a behavioral problem, which is not hard to miss, but it may present as a physical complaint, a sign of some kind of illness, and the parent may actually come in thinking their child is sick with some kind of infection, and it turns out to be some kind of just overwhelming stress on the child.
And so I guess quickly before we wrap, what are some coping mechanisms that parents can help their children do if they do have mental health issues, anxiety, or anything of that sort?
If it is severe enough that you are in my office talking to me about it, I usually will recommend an appointment with a therapist. Letting the person talk out what's going on and let someone who's trained in that field to talk with the child and the parent on how to deal with it. Coping mechanisms for the child, but ways to support the child for the parent.
And would you say coping has become something that's more difficult in your years of practice?
Yeah, I see a lot of times the inability for children and young people with some kind of, I don't even know the word I'm trying to look for, but with some kind of issue, if it doesn't, simplistically, if something does not go as they're expecting.
Maybe it's like a tantrum or something.
Yeah, they can't. They don't know how to cope. They don't know how to cope with defeat, I guess is the best way to say that. And so we see this a lot.
All right, guys. Well, if you have ever any questions, you can see Dr. Watson in West Point. It's always great having you in studio. A good topic we talked about.
Good topic.
We'll be right back.